Welcome to Learning Intention 4, Venn diagrams. So we continue our adventure along the topic of probability, and we now encounter a new subtopic called Venn diagrams. So a Venn diagram is a new method or a new tool we're going to add to our toolbox that will help us explain sets and the relationship between different sets. So today's learning intentions. Today you will look at a new method of visualizing data called a Venn diagram. By the end of this lesson, you'll use Venn diagrams to explain the possible relations of finite sets. So finite sets being sets where there's a limited amount of data available. So consider the rolling of a dice. The only possible outcomes that can occur are numbers 1 to 6, or perhaps it could be the cards in a deck. So there's not an unlimited amount of different or possibilities that could come from the deck. You're limited to, say, a 1 to 10, Jack to King, in 4 different sets, or 4 different suits, I should say. Now, one thing I'll mention is, again, this topic, it's not much mathematical processes we're looking at. It's mostly concepts. And as a result of that, there's not a whole lot that I can really demonstrate in these or in this video and these slides, but rather the way in which you're going to learn is simply by practicing a lot of questions. So as a consequence, I'm only going to go through one example explaining some of the key aspects of a Venn diagram, and then it's going to be up to you guys to practice a number of questions and reference all of the concepts in the reference book so you build your understanding of how you can interpret Venn diagrams. So moving on, consider this picture here. It is composed of 3 different circles. So the first circle, I'm going to highlight green, has all of these letters from the English alphabet. Notice they're all uppercase. The second one over here, if I can get my purple pen, there we go. The second one over here, it's got different characters. Now, some of them look familiar, but other ones, they're not so familiar. These ones in purple, some of the characters in here, they're not from our alphabet. And finally, in teal, this circle down here, we've got even more different characters, and they are definitely not in the English alphabet. Have you guys seen these before? So the obvious ones are the ones in green. They're from the English alphabet, or more precisely, they're from the Roman alphabet. So before we spoke English, or before we wrote English, there was the Roman alphabet, and we write our language using these characters we borrowed from Latin, which was the language spoken in Rome. Hence the reason I refer to this as the Roman alphabet characters. Now over on the left here, have you seen these ones before? Well, I know you may have seen the lowercase of this one, which is theta. And I'm going to guess you may have seen this one here too, phi. So these guys here, they're from the Greek alphabet. And finally, the ones down in the circle shaded teal. Have you seen these characters before? Can you guess where they're from? They are from the Slavic alphabet. So the Slavic alphabet is commonly used in the Eastern European languages, such as, say, Serbian. It used to be used in Croatian, it's used in Russian, It's used, I believe, in Mongolian. It's used in possibly Lithuanian, Belarusian, pretty much anything that used to be a part of the old Soviet bloc used this alphabet, and some countries still continue to use this alphabet. So it's still widely used today. But the point I'm trying to make here is notice that all of these alphabets, they could be described as a set. And notice, where are all of these alphabets used? Well, they're used in Europe. So these could be European alphabets. Or even better, I'll say they're not European alphabets, they're European characters. Now, this doesn't include all of the characters in Europe, as we're clearly missing, off the top of my head, I know we're missing a number of characters from the Nordic languages. So the countries consisting of Norway, Denmark, Sweden, sometimes including Iceland and Finland. They are also missing characters from Old English. They're missing characters from the Old Greek languages or Ancient Greek. And they're missing characters from the Germanic language or the German languages as well, just to name a few. Now, going across, what we can say is this diagram here, it's actually called a Venn diagram. And as I mentioned before, it's showing us the association between three European alphabets, the Roman, the Greek, and the Slavic. And the three European languages can be seen as a set. So each language here, shaded with the circle, we can call that an individual set. So the Greek alphabet is a set, the Roman alphabet is its own set, and the Slavic alphabet is its own set as well. Oops. And yeah, so we can explain them as sets. And looking over here, we've got the European characters. So all of these combined together, we could say, or all of these, the union of all of these, would be seen as the European characters or its own set. And thus we can say that the Roman, the Greek, and the Slavic alphabets are all a subset of the European alphabet characters. Now, where these cross over, so notice that there's common letters between the Greek and the Roman, which are here. I will shade those in yellow. So we've got N, Z, and I, or if we're Greek speaking, we would say that that is, I believe it's eta, zeta, and iota. These symbols belong to both alphabets. So we could say that these here, the intersection of the Greek and the Roman alphabet, would be eta, zeta, and iota, which would be written as its own set. And that would look like, where is it? So all the way down here. So the intersection of the Greek and the Roman would equal eta, zeta, and iota, or N, Z, and I. Now up here, what I've done is I've rewritten each alphabet in its lowercase and assigned it a set. So G is composed of all of these members here, and they're all Greek letters. The Roman alphabet I've assigned as set R, has all of these letters here as their member, and the Slavic alphabet, which I've assigned as set S, has all of these Slavic characters here. And as I mentioned before, E is equal to the union of G, R, and S. So it's a combination of all of these characters put into a single set. So E would be all of these characters. Now we could also say that G is a subset of set E. So the Greek characters or the Greek alphabet is a subset of the European alphabet because all of the Greek characters appear in the European alphabet. So moving on, as I mentioned before, the information in this is mostly concepts as opposed to mathematical processes. So what I've done is looking at our reference book. It's got a number of rules already written out. Now, I'm not going to discuss these in this video because I think if I discuss this, the video is just going to get really long. And as I mentioned before, the best way to learn this stuff is simply by doing questions. So what I'm going to recommend, guys, is I want you to have a go. After listening to this and knowing or being able to see the basics of a Venn diagram, I want you to go, and I've uploaded the chapter in DayMap, and I want you to have a go at questions in chapter 4E.1 all the way to 4E.3. And I don't want you to do them all. On DayMap, I've listed exactly which questions I want you to do. And again, the reason I'm asking you to do this is because if you simply listen or simply just read the book, you're not going to learn anything. You'll simply forget everything, maybe 10-15 minutes after you've put the book away. So the only way you can do this is by doing questions from these chapters. If you have any questions and you're not present in the class, then by all means send me an email and I can help you with it. But yeah, the only way that you're going to get good at this is you just have to do these questions. Now, tomorrow in the next lesson on Tuesday, we're not going to be having time to do this again. So it's really important that you use your time effectively in class today, or otherwise you'll end up getting left behind in the next lesson, which isn't a good thing or isn't a good place to be. So make sure you use your time wisely today. So in conclusion, by the end of this lesson, you want to be able to interpret the relations between sets by inspecting Venn diagrams.